Jeff Plavier, or Plavier, I don't know how you pronounce it, says, based on the feedback at the store and from the Kilts and Culture group, do you folks at USA Kilts feel there is a higher interest or participation in Burns Night this year over previous years? In short, do you think the interest is truly growing in this or other Scottish events? And I'll say events or traditions. Are we in an upswing?
I think it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
We are kindly invited to several Burns nights. So I know that there are several ish within an hour or two drive of us. And I've seen several within our Kilts and Culture group
Mm-hmm.
that have occurred and things like that. And I think post-COVID, there's definitely been a drive, a desire, a need to reconnect personally with people and to have events, public events, where you get to have fun in a large group, unmasked.
Yep.
So I think there's definitely been a trend towards it. Will that continue 10 years from now? Who knows? I think with Ancestry.com, there's probably been a bit more of an influx over the past 5-10 years of people wanting to get in touch with their heritage. And then once they find out, ooh, I'm part Scottish, what does that mean? What can I do? How can I celebrate that? Then they figure out about haggis, and then they go, okay, when can I have haggis? Oh wait, Burns Night. That's a good excuse. And they want to find an excuse to celebrate. Any excuse for a party is a good excuse.
Right, basically.
So I think overall, there's probably some kind of pull towards culture and partying and wanting to express heritage. I don't know how much more in the past few years versus 10 years versus 20 years. Do you have a sense of it?
I think it's gone both ways. So I think what COVID did was it increased people's desire to get out and do things again as soon as they could.
An appreciation for getting out. Yes.
Heightened appreciation. And I think that at the same time, more people got inspired to do things that they could do at home those, few years ago during all the lockdowns. So I think there was a huge groundswell of at-home burn suppers, private parties that people were doing. Just like, bread baking became a huge hobby during COVID. I think that things like Burns Night, and doing home crafty, homespun, rustic, feel good, warm, fuzzy kind of stuff like that got a big shot in the arm. And I think that's continued. I see more people post about how they're making their own burn suppers at home, or they're having a burn supper and just inviting a few friends over. So I do think, yes, the public events have definitely come back. And I think that at the same time, people are doing more stuff at home. I think that's the thing I see in terms of interest in cultural stuff like burn supper. It's there's more interest in the craft side of it, is what I've noticed. It's not just the socialization, but it's more interest in DIY stuff.
I just thought of a way for us to gather empirical evidence that I didn't think of till just now. We could call the Scottish Gourmet and see what their sales of haggis is, or if they have increased over the last 8 years from then to now in January.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's a great.
I'll figure it out. Yeah, it's an easy, simple way to do it, and we have access to them. They're good people.
Yeah.
So I'll insert that here. So I just got off the phone with Ann at Scottish Gourmet USA, and I got some data for us. 2024 was their biggest year ever for haggis sales. They think they know, check that absolutely more people are holding in-home haggis Robert Burns suppers, and they know that through individual small order sales, and also more people are holding large events and going to large events because they're selling more to larger organizations as well. The trends over time, 2018, they were up 18%, 29 in January haggis sales. 2019 up 16%, 2020 they were up 3%. Then 2021, it obviously fell off with the pandemic and no one being able to go to events. But it came roaring back. In 2022, big dinners were up 33, haggis sales were up 33%. 2023, they were above 2019 numbers. They were up 21%. And this year, January of 2024, they were up 17%, which puts them well above 2020 numbers. They're back on track. 100% Americans love burnt suppers, and they love haggis.
But I would say in some ways we are in an upswing in cultural interest. And I've said before that basically I think it's because the more high-tech life gets, the more people want some kind of a sense of something real and natural and analog.
Yep.
So I think there's more interest in everything we talk about here because of that alone. It's not dehumanizing. It's not cookie cutter culture. It is something you can really sink your teeth into, and you can share it with loved ones and family, and pass on to your kids, and it just feels really real. So I think we are absolutely seeing an upswing in interest in all of this stuff.
In a weird way, technology is feeding it.
Yes.
It's this weird monster that technology is making us more individual and going into our own, echo chamber bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other end, it's making us want to connect more analog and more visceral, physical, interactions. But we're finding more data and more people and more geekdoms and more friends through communities online, which is then feeding our knowledge base.
Yep.
And then we go out and physically, interact with each other in the real world because we have that need as well as humans.
And more material to work with. I mean, the Glen Afric tartan is a perfect example of that. And I know I have a question here about that we'll get into later, but what we can do with that tartan and know about it now is vastly superior to what we could have learned about it just 10 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, so.
You mean this Glen Afric tartan?
I know that Glen Afric tartan. Right
available at usakilts.com.
I think the thing about tradition and culture that you inherit from your ancestors is that it's kind of like eating peanuts. The more you learn, the more you want to learn. The more you do, the more you want to do. So tell us in the comments, what traditions from the old country, like Burns Night, do you enjoy? Do you partake in, either with family or friends or out in your community? What would you like to do that you've never done before? Tell us in the comments. And if you're interested in this kind of thing, be sure to check our other holiday videos out over here.